Hello, everyone. This is Lala, and today I'm going to do the first part of my Veteran Privilege series where I'm talking about Jessie from Big Brother 11. Recently, I made a video talking about veteran privilege in reality TV, but obviously focusing on Big Brother, especially since that's the backbone of my channels. And I talked about how veterans, especially in Big Brother, have a lot of privileges that are used towards their benefit, but that was kind of a more generalized topic, or the video was more generalized, where in this video I'm going to go into specifics pertaining Jessie Goddard from Big Brother 11. Now let's get to it, and I'm planning on doing this for the other veterans on returning seasons after this, or mixed seasons after this. Okay, so the first thing I want to mention are the four eligible returnees, which was Cowboy from Big Brother 5, Jessica from Big Brother 8, Brian from Big Brother 10, and Jessie from Big Brother 10. Just from looking at this, they chose three people who are on Big Brother within the last 2 years, as Jessica's season was 2 years prior, with Brian and Jessie's season being from the year and season prior. Obviously, Big Brother 9 was ignored despite it taking place a year and a half earlier and in between BB8 and BB10, but it just showed how production just didn't like the season. And the fourth option was someone who took part of a season that was 5 years old at the time, as Big Brother 5 took place in 2004 and this is in 2005. So Cowboy season was from 5 years earlier and 6 seasons earlier, since Big Brother 5 was 6 seasons before Big Brother 11. Just with this sample size, it clearly means that they wanted someone from a very recent season to be on, and they preferred someone from Big Brother 10 to be on, since it was the most recent season, and there was two of them, where Jessica was the only one from Big Brother 8, and Cowboy was from many years back, and there's no recency bias that Big Brother 5 or Cowboy benefited off of. So he was clearly a filler spot. Jessica had a decent chance because she was on a recent season, but it was 3 seasons earlier, 2 seasons earlier, and they stacked half of the returning eligible people with people who are on the most recent season. So, with this in mind, they were clearly preferring someone from the last season to come back. So, Jessie had that benefit just from that. Alrighty, so one major thing when it comes to the privilege that Jessie benefited from in this season was especially regarding the way that they set up the first HOH competition. So, a potential veteran represented a team that was established in the Big Brother house, since a few of them were athletes, a few of them were populars, a few of them were offbeat, and a few of them were brains. So, with the way this was set up, a vet was coming in to begin with, since they represented a team, and they had four of them. So there's no option for there not to be a vet, or there's no disguised option of there not being a vet coming in, like there was in Big Brother 19. So based on whomever won the competition, the veteran not only was allowed to become a player, but was granted the gift of becoming the very first HOH, despite them not doing anything in the actual competition. Well, the newbie who was on their team actually did the work to win the competition, but they weren't granted the HOH. They are only given immunity. This gives the veteran the opportunity to create the dynamics of the season, but to do it in his favor. And it becomes more solidified because the first week at the time is really 2 weeks, which gives them even more time. Even if you look at the competition, it is a physical endurance competition, which would benefit a popular, hence Jessica being second place since the populars did better in the competition, or at least compared to the athletes. Sorry, or in comparison to the others, next to the athletes, and especially an athlete doing well in this. Hence Jessie becoming becoming not only a house guest but the HOH, since Natalie and Russell essentially won the competition for him to join them. Okay, so after Jessie enters the house, they all recognize him because he was on the most recent season that aired a year ago. The cast either watched Big Brother 10 live last year or in sequester while they're preparing for this season. So the familiarity benefits the veterans just from that. Even the recruits who never watched the show before they were approached to be a part of the cast, they are usually given seasons to watch. And I know from future seasons that were mixed seasons, they gave them seasons that had the veterans that would appear on it. So I'm assuming that the Big Brother 11 cast that were in Sequester watched or were recommended to watch Big Brother 10. So they would automatically recognize Jessie, especially since he had such a huge edit during the short time he was on the season. So, half of the house falls in love with him, and a cult like dynamic is formed within his alliance, with the split house being imminent and the minority has or having no numbers, especially after the first vote. Okay, so there was a moment where it seemed like things potentially flipped on Jesse and his alliance. Since one, he chose a very unliked pawn in Chima, who was on his side, but had the nom stayed the same, Chima would have went home over Lydia, and even nominating Lydia, someone who was infatuated with him, wasn't the best idea. But they realized that they could have gotten rid of, or that they have a chance to get rid of a threat from the other side. So vetoing Lydia off and putting Brayden up was definitely a good idea. And after Brayden snapped and used racist rhetoric on Kevin and Lydia, it was said and done to get rid of him, though even still, it was a tie vote, since they expected Ronnie to side with them. And by them, I mean the other side, which was mainly the Populars and Jeff and Casey. But Jesse and Ronnie built a bond with one another, and Ronnie voted with Jesse. And Jesse had to break the tie to keep Chima and to boot Brayden. So after this, it was essentially smooth sailing with Jesse and his allies. There were other benefits and privileges that Jesse had, with him being a very athletic white man, where a lot of the bros are going to want to work with him, and a lot of the men respect him due to that, and he's a conventionally attractive guy. So a lot of the women, especially Natalie and Lydia, are enamored with him, they want to work with him, they want to be around him, so on and so forth. And obviously, with him being a veteran, he has experience with how to deal with the game, not only just the psychological stuff and the gameplay element of it, but also dealing with production and the aftermath of the post season of the Big Brother season and whatever lucrative opportunities that they may or may not get. So, he was put in the position where he was given a lot, or he would give a lot of advice to a lot of the house guests. Outside of that, there is something about Jesse where he is able to build these strong bonds with people and to get very emotional over him, as we will see in his exits in this season. And even in last season, there was a sense of this where they were so emotional over him leaving. So there was some element to his social game that he's able to have that ability and effect on people. And in general, I just do think that this cast was a lot more suitable to Jesse and his interests, likes, and his personality, where he was able to thrive socially due to this. Though, despite that, there was still half of the house who didn't care for him too much, and that was a hurdle that he just wasn't able to overcome. So, with it looked like him steamrolling throughout the season, that didn't end up happening. And because it didn't end up happening, I feel like a lot of people ignored the privileges that he did have in the season. But why was his veteran privilege not as strong, especially compared to other veterans in other mixed seasons? That is what we're going to get into now. I think one of the reasons why his returning player slash veteran privilege only took him so far is partially due to who he was aligned with. And this is the case in a few ways. One of them is that there's a lot of infighting within his alliance. Russell and Ronnie didn't have the best relationship, and it got to the point where Russell decided to target Ronnie on his HOH, and even on Ronnie's HOH, he was heavily considering backdooring Russell. So the tension between the two of them blew up in the fourth week, where Russell was insistent on sending Ronnie home, despite Jesse, Chima, and Natalie not wanting that. And because they were so adamant on keeping Ronnie, Russell felt like he was on the out of his own alliance, so it caused distrust there. And this would eventually turn into Russell versus Chima going at it not only just on a personal level, but on a strategic level as well, with Chima deciding to use her HOH, which she won after Russell booted Ronnie, and she used her HOH to boot Russell. So it dismantled that alliance even more. And while they did have Lydia and Kevin on their side, Jessie and Kevin didn't have the best relationship with one another, and Kevin was really on their side due to his relationship with Chima and Lydia at the time. And even though Jessie and Lydia were good friends and they were aligned, he always saw her as someone who was very expendable and wasn't going to add much to the alliance. So he never took her very seriously. And she was a pawn on Russell and Chima's HOHs as well. Heck, he even tried to evict her on Russell's HOH. So the infighting was just way too much for Jessie to overcome, and while he was trying to be a mediator, he cannot mediate that situation, and it wasn't like he was making other allies as well, where he could circumvent the infighting and move on with some of his loyal allies and gain other allies where that could have been his new alliance or structure. That didn't happen with him at all. Another reason why I think his allies kind of caused his veteran privilege to not work for him fully is the fact that not only was his side of the house in power for pretty much the entire time he was on the season, I also think that regarding certain demographics of the fan base or the casual audience, they didn't like seeing an alliance that was very multiracial and multi-ethnic working together, and the side that had all of the white people were on the losing side. So it caused for some members of the audience to feel bad for the Jeffs and Jordans and the Michelles, so on and so forth. While this multiracial and multi-ethnic alliance were dominating, they had very big and bold personalities, and they weren't seen as the most likable. Honestly, both sides had very unlikable personalities and characteristics to them, but when it comes to the edit, it was the side that had the majority that had their more unsavory moments made onto the air. And based off of them being the overdogs or the ones having success, it caused a lot of the fan base to feel bad for the other side. And with there being a twist called the coup d'etat, where something could be done about this, where in most other seasons, there really isn't any twists that the audience can influence and have their parts change the dynamics of the season with a coup d'etat or something similar to that. Big Brother 11 was given the perfect opportunity for this, and people felt really bad for Jeff and Jordan. And they became the new favorites of the casual audience. So despite Jessie being more known and recognizable since he was on the prior season, he was never a fan favorite on Big Brother 10 and on Big Brother 11. So the rising popularity of Jeff and Jordan essentially usurped Jessie's veteran privilege in the producers and the fans' eyes. And especially with the coup d'etat being available for a twist to be done like this, it was put into place. Jeff was given a great edit, and he was voted by America to have the coup d'etat. And Jessie knew that if this power was used, he was going to be the recipient or the victim of it, especially since he was voted out on America's vote last season, though he would have been voted out even if Dan had a normal vote last season. So Jessie pretty much saw this coming, and most of the house figured out that it was Jeff who had the coup d'etat. And Jessie really couldn't usurp that. And even if there wasn't a coup d'etat twist, while he would have made it past the fifth week, no one knows how much longer he would have made it without it, if you're looking at the competition results. But even still, when you switch one person out and put another person in on the same competition, a whole bunch of different results could come into play. So we really don't know how much better he would have done without the coup d'etat. So I want to compare him to a few other veterans in a case-by-case situation and why his situation differed from some of theirs. So one, or I guess two of the people I'm going to compare him first is to Brenchall in Big Brother 13. Both of them were returning vets, and their freshman season was the year prior. And like Jessie, Brendan and Rachel were not liked by the audience whatsoever. And this negative reception from the audience definitely affected how they were on their returning player season. I think the difference between Jessie and those two is that he was the only returning player on Big Brother 11, while Brendan and Rachel not only had one another, but they had four other people on Big Brother 13. So they had other returning veterans to go off of. And due to Brendan and Rachel having other returning house guests, mainly Jeff and Jordan, who are more popular not only in the house but outside of the house as well, there were a lot of twists that went in their favor, compared to Jesse, who was not as liked and he didn't have anyone more likable than he was that he was aligned with. So he really was disadvantaged in that way. Other returnee in Big Brother USA that I'm comparing Jesse to is Paul from Big Brother 19. And this is a more sensible comparison. Both of them were the only returnees in their season, and they both played in the prior season. So they had that similarity of still being fresh within their Big Brother experience, hence them doing 2 seasons in 2 years, and them having that immediate recognizability. But there are definitely a few differences. One is that Jesse was a pre-juror boot on his first season, where Paul was a finalist on his first season. So Jesse was able to go home. He didn't have the full Big Brother experience due to having an early departure, where he came in having something to prove, where Paul went all the way in 18 and then came in 19 without watching anything of 18. And I think it caused him to play the game differently in that respect, where Jesse was a lot more careful than Paul was in comparison. Paul ended up making it to the end once again on Big Brother 19, where Jesse was a mid-season boot yet again on this season, though obviously it was due to a twist. I think the fate of both of them have to do with the fact that Jesse really wasn't popular on his first season audience wise, despite him somewhat being an underdog, while Paul was very popular on his first season while being an underdog as well. And Paul also just benefited from making it to the end compared to Jesse. And obviously, there was no one who was really as liked as Jeff and Jordan was in his opposition. And Cody kind of didn't really count because Cody was only liked due to being against Paul, not for his actual personality. And a lot of people still didn't like Cody and Jessica at all, especially in the beginning. And there's no twist that could have caused Paul to be booted mid season like Jesse. So there's that difference there. Also, another notable difference is that Paul is just a lot better of a player than Jesse, and Paul knows how to maneuver things whenever they weren't going his way or whenever there's potential danger, where Jesse didn't really have that skill or benefit in comparison. So their journeys, while similar in certain ways, was always going to end up with a different result. Anyways, this is just a quick little video about how Jesse from Big Brother 11 benefited from veteran privilege, and also why his veteran privilege didn't compare anywhere near the amount compared to some of the others that came after him that were on mixed seasons. So I'm definitely going to do this with all of the other veterans who are on mixed seasons, so expect a long video for Big Brother 13, one for Big Brother 14, one for Big Brother 18, and one for Big Brother 19 as well. So that's should be coming out sooner than later. And this is only part one of the returning slash veteran player privilege in Big Brother that I'm going to do. Thank you all for supporting and watching. You can follow and like this channel and my other channel and my social media, and I'll be back with more content soon. Bye!